Welcome back to another episode of the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. And here we are hitting you up with episode 3 of preview and predictions for the 2019 NFL season. And you got it. It's the big division in the AFC East, or the division I like to call Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, without a doubt, man. I mean, I think it's, let's just be fair. They own the division. You might as well just put their name on it. You might as well just call it the Patriots division.
I don't think we're gonna be shocking anybody by saying right off the bat we got them both winning the division.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
Oh my God, you spoiled the episode.
The New England Patriots are gonna win the division.
I hope none of you guys out there are too shocked.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, of course, we're just gonna give it to you right now. The Pats in a landslide in this division. But for this episode, let's go ahead and work our way down to the bottom, and then we'll come back up and talk about the Pats. So, who do you got at the bottom of this division, man?
I got the Miami Dolphins, and they are head coached by first-year Brian Flores, who came over from New England, was their defensive coordinator. You know, when you look at their free agents, the one thing that kind of sticks out is the trade, and that's the trade for Josh Rosen. And in the draft, they did go ahead with the 13th overall pick and get Christian Wilkins out of the national championship Clemson, as well as Michael Dieter, offensive line out of, I think it was Ohio State. Oh, no, Wisconsin, excuse me.
They got two dudes out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The second and the third, right? I mean, the third and the, was it the third and the fifth?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So that's a team that just, first of all, can Brian Flores break the curse of Belichick, assistant coaches making the jump to head coach?
I mean, these assistant coaches for Belichick just haven't had much luck, and I don't foresee that Bill Belichick or the Patriots organization would let an assistant coach go ahead and become a head coach in their division and possibly wreck their plans. The Patriots have done this many times before. I don't think this is going to be any different. I think this is going to be a coach that he'll be lucky if he's still coaching this team 3 years from now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm interested in Josh Rosen, though. As a big UCLA fan, I really do believe that Josh Rosen is a talented quarterback. His first year or two, he was really good until the injury. And then, that last season, he was still good, but they just couldn't protect him. And, at least the Dolphins have a player like Laramie Tunsil, who, say what you will about the gas mask shit, he's a good left tackle. He's a good tackle.
The Dolphins are thinking that because he fell to them.
Fell to them. And so hopefully, and again, we got to talk about Fitzmagic. I mean, he probably might start the season as a starter.
He is going to be the starter from what you hear. They just don't have a lot of talent. And it's a weird thing because you kind of thought before the season started that they were kind of tank for Tua, that this was a team that was just trying to kind of build enough to get the number 1 pick or a top 2 pick and draft one of the quarterbacks in the 2020 draft class. And with the trade of Rosen, or trade for Rosen, it doesn't eliminate that entirely, but now you have a piece where you want to see what he can do. Can you build? Because let's say you don't have enough talent and you end up with the 3rd overall pick. Man, you still can trade that pick for a top team that needs a quarterback and completely rebuild around Josh Rosen.
Right.
The one thing I noticed too, I'm looking at is their schedule. It's pretty rough. They start with the Ravens. So they open versus Baltimore in that defense. They do go to Dallas before they are home versus the Chargers. They go to Pittsburgh and are home versus Philly. So they've got a lot. That's a tough schedule for them to make any headway, especially with the lack of talent that is on that roster.
Fitzmagic for me, man. I mean, this guy, he's magic for a couple of games and then he kind of disappears. So I think Josh Rosen will get his shot. And hey, this is a do or die year for Josh Rosen, because after 2 teams pass on you, you're pretty much done. The league basically gives up on you.
Yeah, you're a journeyman for that.
He'll get a fall from grace. There's some weapons at wide receiver. There's a couple of former Cowboys there, Bryce Butler, Alan Hearns. I think they still have Kenny Stills. So there's some receivers on that squad. So there's weapons there. There's some protection. We'll see if they can put it together, man. On the defense, they still have Kiko Alonso, but nobody that of note that jumps out to me and says, hey, man, this guy, I mean, they're rebuilding on that defense.
Yeah, I think they have Xavier Howard, the defensive back, is a good piece. But, as a whole, and then learning a new system, that's a lot to ask for a team that's in the division with the New England Patriots. And it feels like the other 2 teams, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets, are kind of like a step ahead. They're a year ahead of them.
I think so, too. And you know what? At the very least, I hope Rosen plays some games, because it'll be fun to see the rivalry continue from UCLA-USC with Darnold over in the Jets. and see those two go back and forth and see who can be, a complete plural. But Darnold's looking good, man. But before we hit the Jets up, let's talk a little bit about the Bills, man. You got the Bills finishing third like I do?
Yes.
Yeah, me too, man. I think the Bills, like I said, I just think they're a little bit more ahead of the Miami Dolphins at this point. You still have talent on that roster. You still have LaShawn McCoy at running back, who, although he did have a bit of a down year last season, I mean, he's still a top 10 running back in this league at the very least. He can make plays. He can catch balls out of the backfield. He might be a little older. He might be a little slower, but he can get the job done. They added a few weapons because, there was not a lot of offensive fireworks for this team last season. So, they pulled over Cole Beasley from Dallas, who, again, I liked Cole Beasley. He was a very nice slot receiver. I think he'll do well for them. He just got a little salty at the end, but, he's not an explosive playmaker by any stretch of the imagination.
And never forget who they had for about 5 good minutes, who they traded for.
Oh, AB.
Yeah,
that's right. You got me for a second there. Yeah. That's right, AB. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they're kind of like, whew.
Oh, yeah.
They got to be pretty happy about that.
I bet you Buffalo Bill fans are happy right now that AB
is not there.
Is not there.
Well, let's talk about not just what they added in free agency, but in the draft as well. They drafted one of the players in Ed Oliver, who was considered a real top talent. People had him going as high as 3 or 4 to, the Raiders, to the Jets. You even had some people mocking him to the Bucks. Undersized tackle who has some of the athletic traits of an Aaron Donald, but is nowhere near as refined technically and is big.
Aaron Donald's on another level.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm just talking about coming out of Pitt.
A comparison.
Player comp to what he was, And you look at him, what he can do. You have Sean McDermott, who runs a very aggressive defense, and using him to be able to kind of, whereas Houston played him as a nose tackle, they're going to line him up more as a 3 technique and let him use his athletic ability to get past guards and to cause disruption. They also got Cody Ford, the offensive tackle, who's protected 2 Heisman Trophy winners and 2 number 1 picks.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, excuse me.
Yeah, Murray.
So, I feel like they are, with the talent goes right, and if the head coaching is a little bit better than the team on number 2, I could see them being the second place team in this division. I don't think the gap between 3 and 2 is 3-4 games. I think it's 2 games at the most.
Yeah, I think if this defense plays to the top of its potential, it's very possible for a second place finish. That's beyond the stretch, beyond the stretch. Like you said, they drafted Ed Oliver, Starlo Tulele's over there now. They got Tremaine Edmonds still, right? So, a lot of young talent on that defense.
And it's going to go the way Josh Allen takes it. I mean, they're expecting him to take that big leap. I mean, he's the quarterback who can run, has got the arm. He's a very talented, physically gifted quarterback. Now, can he put it together? Can he be accurate? Can he show touch? Can he show anticipation? What's the offense going to look like now with the weapons they've added? So, it's exciting to see because we don't know. I mean, it's like it's Brady and 3 young lions, Right. And to see which one of them progress.
Yeah. Well, speaking of young lions that I think are going to progress, let's just go ahead and talk about the Jets and Sam Darnold, man. I think, look, I'm a UCLA fan, but I got to admit, Sam Darnold was balling in college. He was definitely somebody you feared. And I think, you know what? He was like one of the youngest quarterbacks ever,
like
right?
20,
to start a game.
Yeah, like 20 years old.
So, I mean, he's got a long road ahead of him, and I think there's room for lots of improvement. He's already flashed in college and in the pros. I think if you're a Jets fan, at this point, you cannot help but be optimistic about him, man.
Yeah, him, yes. I mean, but my question with this team is funny. It's not even with the talent. It's with the coaches. Yeah. I mean, you bring in Adam Gase, who...
The AFC East, man, they like to keep this in the family, huh?
Yeah,
they just trade coaches and stuff.
Yeah, there's some blue blood kind of breeding going on in that division, man. You look at Adam Gase, I don't get it. I don't know what he did that warranted a second head coaching stint.
I think the excuse is he just didn't have his quarterback and kind of thing.
If you can, Sam Darnold has enough talent where if you're a good offensive mind, you should be able to get a lot out of Sam Darnold.
Right.
And then the defensive coordinator is even crazier than him, is Greg Williams.
Yeah, Greg Williams.
So, if they don't go right, I expect a fist fight. I need players separating coaches. before
it could happen, man. I mean, it could happen. I mean, whether it's cocaine or smelling salts, I mean,
whatever parties those dudes are on.
This coaching staff is pretty rowdy about it, man.
Yep.
So,
and then you look at like their free agents. They were the big players in free agency. You added C.J. Mosley. You added Lev Bell. Those are big names to add to your.
I love C.J. Mosley.
Yeah,
he's a great.
And I think that defense is one edge rusher, one true edge rusher from being very good on the border of elite, because everywhere across the board and secondary, linebacker, defensive line, there's talent and good young talent. Whether it's Jamal Adams at safety, whether it's Mosley coming over, and then you talk about their first round draft pick and Quentin Williams to pair with Leonard Williams and build that kind of wall.
Leonard Williams really hasn't flashed though, like we expected coming out.
No,
of college,
yeah,
man.
you know what? I will agree with you there. I mean, people had him as the top rated player coming out of college, and I think that. You want to see what he can do because he has talent. You see it's there, but it's just not put together. He's got one of those, will he be motivated? This is his last year. This is a contract year.
Yeah.
Can him and Leonard Williams, maybe Quentin Williams kind of lights a fire under him. He was buried behind the Wilkerson, Richardson.
Right, and those guys are gone now.
Yeah, so it's Leonard Williams and him to kind of shine. Just real quick, just to touch on the schedule is, man, they've got a pretty crazy one. They have week 2. It's a rematch against the Browns. You got to remember, they gave the Browns their first victory in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they go to Philly before hosting the Cowboys. They have to go to Jacksonville. And they have one of my favorite rivalries I hope kind of returns, which is them hosting the Oakland Raiders.
Ooh.
That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that should be fun with AB coming to town and John Gruden and the carnival that is the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, man, I think, where do you see this Jets team ending up? Like, I see this team being around 8-8.
Yeah.
9, maybe 9-7 with the good year.
I think my view is there are 2 or 3 elite teams that have a chance to win 13 games. There are about 4 or 5 bad teams that could win only 2 or 3. And the rest are 8-8 depending on what breaks right for them. If Gase is what he says he is, if Williams can put that defense together, this could be a 10-win team, I think. The question is, how close do they come to challenging New England for that division?
Not at all. Sorry, Jets fans, but it ain't going to happen. I've given up on trying to predict the fall and the collapse of this dynasty. Last season, when I talked about the New England Patriots on the podcast, for me, I described the Patriots as just like a castle, man. They're like a classic castle just built right, and it was built brick by brick. And basically, when one brick gets old, one brick cracks, you simply take another brick and you put it right in that spot, and everything, the structure does not change. It's as sturdy as ever. And that's the way I see this Patriots team. So until I see otherwise, I'm not picking them to lose, man.
No. And so let's just kind of transition into them. We have the New England Patriots. I don't think I have to tell you who their head coach is. He's been there for pretty much the last 20-something years.
Yeah, greatest coach of all time, I got to admit.
Yeah.
At this point, there's no denying it.
No. You win 6 Super Bowls.
And then you got arguably now, we got to start talking to him as one of the better receivers of all time, and Julian Edelman. He's getting up there with Jerry Rice numbers, man.
Yeah.
It's getting scary.
It's
at least playoff-wise.
Yeah. Oh, well, they've been there so much. Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be interesting with them because, in theory, when you look at it on paper, Tom Brady should fall off, but I don't even think it's going to matter. He could fall off and not be an average quarterback, and they'll still win that division and host a playoff game because Belichick, just like he did last year, is going to know, okay, my quarterback can't throw 50 times a game anymore. Our offensive line's not built to handle that. Right. So guess what I'm going to do? We're going to be a running team. We're going to be a power.
Sony Michel.
Yeah, we're going to run Sony Michel. We're going to run, Gronk's going to be a blocking tight end. He'll come out on a few play action passes. But, I
think they'll miss Gronk, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, but it's interesting. Speaking of that, they lose a big target for him, but they draft, N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State.
Yeah.
Who can he's not Gronk, but he can be that big target that the offense kind of that's our go-to, is that big target there. Put him in different places. They're going to run a lot of play action. I think the defense is the strength of that team still.
Yeah, without a doubt, I think the defense is the strength. Oh, that's unfair because the strength of that team is Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about
on the field,
the side that you have more confidence in, I think it's the defense, at least consistently.
Yes.
I think the offense has potential to have their big games.
Yeah.
But consistently, I'd go with the defense.
Yes. And it's just that they have Brady who can say, okay, you need 2 touchdowns.
They added Bennett.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
On the defensive line to replace Trey Flowers.
Yeah. So, you know.
And they lose players, and it's like they lost, Malcolm Butler and nothing. Wow.
It's just, hey,
like
that brick's gone? Okay, let's put another brick in there.
You look at, their schedule is pretty interesting, too. I mean, they open with the Steelers, which is going to say a lot about the Steelers, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too.
That's a tough test for them.
That's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, it is. Then they have the Browns. I mean, New England has a pretty fun schedule, and if they can survive it, their schedule tests them. They get through it, they're battle hardened for this year. When you play the Browns offense, you go into Baltimore against their defense, you go into Philly, you host the Cowboys, and you host Kansas City.
Yeah.
So you're running a gauntlet of like, and not just the teams that are hard, but they're different types. You have offenses that are high flying like the Browns and the Eagles. You have defenses like, Baltimore. You have the MVP and Patrick Mahomes and the Cowboys who are going to run the ball. Can you game plan and adapt to win those games consistently?
And I think we know the answer is yes.
Yes.
This is Bill Belichick. He's done it for decades, man. I mean, he's done it to any kind of team, any kind of attack. And if you do stymie him, you usually do not stymie him for a whole game, for a whole 4 quarters.
No.
So, and you look at the talent. Like, the talent is on the defense. McCourty, Chung, Hightower.
Gilmore.
Yeah. Stephon Gilmore. So, for
then,
me, man, Belichick's got the weapons to make his defense work there.
Yeah. I mean, and what's interesting, one last thing is that one guy I wanted to talk about real quick on the draft was Chase Winovich, the linebacker from Michigan.
Yeah.
The reason I want to talk to him is the minute you watch him play, if you watch any Michigan game, you look at him like, oh, yeah, New England's getting him.
Yeah.
Because he can rush. He's relentless. He can cover. He is a New England. And the reason why I bring this up to close this out is because he's the type of player that's going to play in New England for 10 years and is going to keep that defense going. Because, like you said, Belichick, I found a nice new brick no one wanted, put it right in. We're going to win the division again.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, man. So there you have it. I'm sure nobody had a heart attack over remainder of this podcast here because it's the Patriots division to lose once again in 2019.